In this tutorial, we are going to go over how to do visualizations with R. There are a number of different graphical visualizations you can create within R, so we're going to explore a few of them. We're going to use the same data set from the previous tutorial that looked at how to import data into R and work with that. So we are starting with my data available to us, as you can see on the screen. The first one we're going to look at is the default scatterplot function. So to do this, what we want to do first is we're going to get the data for everything out of the data frame that has the state of Georgia. So to do this, we're going to call in Georgia and assign that to be my data, but with the logical of my data state equal to Georgia. And then we have to add a comma to make sure that we get that's the rows we want are the state of Georgia, and we want all the columns. So after we have this, we can go ahead and plot. So we're gonna pull the critical staffing shortage today, yes, from in Georgia, because in Georgia is still a data frame. So we're gonna make that list in the first input of the plot. And then we are going to use the keyword of main. And when we use main, we'll set main equal to whatever we want the overall title to be. So as you can see here, I just pulled the list of what we want to plot, and then main equal to critical staffing shortage in Georgia, in time series. So then as you can see on the right, we created the scatter plot that allows us to look at what is happening with the critical staffing shortage is reported yes in Georgia. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at a line plot, because that will allow us to look better at the trends in the data. So we're going to be using the in Georgia variable again. This time though, we want both an X and a Y defined to make our plot. So for Y, we're going to use the critical staffing shortage today, yes, from in Georgia. So we're going to save that into Y. Critical staffing shortage, yes. And then for X, we want the date information, but for this, date is stored as a string within the data set. So we need to convert that to a date time object so that we are able to use it in the plot. So to do this, we're going to assign X as date, which will make that a date in Georgia. And then we want the date column. So then now we have X and Y defined, we can go ahead and plot. So when we plot, we're going to use the plot function and use X and Y, and then define a type, followed by an X label, Y label, and then the main, which is going to give us the title again. So let's see, plot X, and we're going to use just the fall data sets 200 to 300. And then we're going to put the same as Y. You need to make sure that your data that you're putting in X and Y are the same length. So the 200 to 300 will work because we assigned it in both cases. Type of L, and then X lab for the X label, which we're going to set to be date, and then Y lab for the Y label, and we'll set that to the number of critical shortages reported in Georgia. And then we want the main title to be critical staffing shortages in Georgia over time. And once we have that, we hit enter, and as you can see now, we have a line plot. This allows us to look at the trends and see how it changes over time, which also can be very useful in analysis. So finally, we're going to go over how to do a bar plot. So for this, we need a count. We're going to use table to create that count. So we're going to pull from that same thing that we've been using this whole time in Georgia, and we want the critical staffing shortages today, yes. That's right here. And then with count, we can look at it to see what it looks like. So an interesting thing you might want to look at is just by doing the question mark table to look at what table does, because it's a very interesting function and can be very useful for creating bar plot type things. So with our bar plot, we're going to use count as our input and then give it a main title as critical staffing shortages. We're going to then define the X and the Y label. X label as the number of hospitals reporting shortage, and then for the Y label, we're going to do count. And then we hit enter, and we will have a bar plot pop up on the right hand side. So as we look at the bar plot, we can see a variety of different data from here and use it as we see fit. I hope this gives you a good intro into the visualizations you can do with R. Thanks for tuning in.